Hey, hi everybody, Dan John here from danjohnuniversity.com and danjohn.net. Well, I had a number of people send me a really interesting article that I hated. It talks about where women came up with this idea of the 1,200 calorie a day diet. Now, we know from the Minnesota study and some other things done during post-World War II to understand starvation, that if you go too low in calories, not only are there some physical problems, but there's a lot of emotional problems. And yeah, so this author really attacked this book. The author's name is Lulu Hunt Peters, and she's a doctor. The book is from, well, it's brand new. It's from 1915. This book I'm holding is 106 years old. So I do, by the way, just so you know, I do something kind of unusual when I try to make a point. Usually I go back and I actually read the book, the original sources, and then I step back and I ask myself, well, what did Lulu mean about 1,200 calories a day? So I went to the book, and it's interesting because I got to tell you, folks, I think there's stuff in this book that still applies today. Now, there are some issues. The biggest issue is this. When she wrote the book, Diet and Health with the Key to Calories, what did Dr. Peters mean by calories? And there's a thing about the book that I found really kind of interesting, is that she considered breakfast. She has this one section where part of breakfast is 2 eggs made in bacon fat. And if you grew up with me, that's what you made eggs in. And then she has the number next to it that it's going to be 40 total calories. Right there should tell you something important. First, was Lulu dealing with a different set of numbers than we are in the year, whatever year we're at. You're watching it. For me, as I talk, it's 2021, 106 years later. In many fields, this might shock some of you young people, that things have changed a little bit in the last 106 years. We hadn't yet flown across the Atlantic, for example. We hadn't been to the moon. A lot of things have changed. So the very first thing you want to do when you read a book from another time, another era, even the 1950s or 60s, you always have to stop, I think, if you have academic integrity, and what are they talking about? Which is why, by the way, and it's probably to a fault, but if you go to my library behind me, I have lots and lots of resources from about 1948 to about 1964. And yet it's true, it's not entirely true what I'm about to say, but it was the pre-anabolic steroid era. Now, why is that a big deal? It's because if someone's on the juice, they can do a lot more volume and intensity than someone who's clean. And that's just a fact of life. You can see the bodies change radically in the 60s when the drugs came in track and field. The performances just went through the roof. There's a couple things about the book I like, and I'm going in no particular order, but probably my favorite part of this book is her recommendation if you have constipation. And constipation is if you go on a lot of fermented foods and a lot of fiber, it's the opposite of what you're facing. But what I love here is this. So to prevent constipation, 1, you need a correct diet, good enough, exercise. I'll come back to the point on exercise, but she is pushing exercise right in the beginning. Also, too, it's interesting when she talks about exercise, she refers to this new book that just came out called Exercised, where she thinks, and the author of Exercise also thinks, is that dancing, and especially in group settings, is the best exercise you can ever do. So, in other words, folks, go to weddings and dance and have a great weekend. Number 3, regular habits. Okay, that's true about anything you do. Number 4, you may have to add fiber to your diet, which I think is true, but it's number 5 I live for. You need a sweet disposition. Mean people are usually constipated. That is a line for the generations. So if you're constipated, be nice. I love that line. I was going to get right to the exercise section next, which I like so much. And if you get the Canadian Air Force book, it'd be hard to find now. They had a copy of it at my favorite used bookstore not long ago. But if you look at the Canadian Air Force exercise program from about 1964 or so, and the exercises that Dr. Peters shows here, you'll notice there's a lot of similarities. If you read Quantum Fitness by Dardick, you'll see some of the exercises are just the same as from the book here. I don't want to spend forever, but there is a huge point in the book, is she asks women to get together in groups to encourage each other to lose weight. And I love it. And these groups are called the anti-Kaiser groups. Now, who's the Kaiser? He's the head of Germany at the time, because we're at war at time with Germany. And if you forget that little section, you might miss the whole point of the book. She is trying to help our allies and our fighting forces by encouraging people to eat a little bit smarter. And what she says is, whoever doesn't win the weekly weigh-in, or whatever it is, has to donate money to the Red Cross. This week, I donated 2 whole units of blood, as I do 3 times a year, to the Red Cross. And it's interesting because the Red Cross is still my go-to donation. Not much has changed in 106 years. And then finally, she does an interesting thing she recommends every day. Now, the reason I find this more interesting than maybe some of you is I've had many dinners with Pavel Tsatsouline. Pavel's a good and decent man. And one of the things he really stresses is to, at meals, drink hot water with lemon. To the point that I actually have all these magic packs of concentrated lemon juice that I travel with. Dr. Peters every day recommends starting your day with 2 cups of hot lemon water, followed by 10 minutes of exercise. If you ignore everything else she says and just started your day with 2 hot, I don't know if there's magic in the hot water with lemon. I have no idea. But the fact that if we get everybody to start the day with some hot water with lemon and 10 minutes of exercise, we would edge our way towards health. Before we go, I do want to add one more book that came out at the same time. You don't often hear this. It's not Think and Grow Rich. It's Eat and Grow Thin. It's from Vance Thompson. And the reason I want to mention this book is for those of you who are intermittent fasters, just so you know, there's nothing new under the sun. This book basically is a template of there are some foods not to eat. My paleo friends will love this. What they used to call starch, sugars, oil, and alcohol. I'm not sure about the alcohol one, but basically every day is going to be a big lunch and a big dinner. I spent a lot of money on a book called The 2 Meal a Day Plan, or something like that. And this book, oh, by the way, from the same year, 1915, recommends the same darn things. Let me give you one day's lunch, and I think this is fantastic. So lunch would be poached eggs with a puree of turnip, because, that's what you need for lunch, cold partridge, coleslaw, and stewed pears. It's a pretty complete lunch. Dinner would be oysters or clams. I like this meal. Broiled chicken, a fillet of beef, a puree of celery root, and fruit salad. I know there's nothing new under the sun, but just remember, when someone talks about an issue in our field of fitness, health, longevity, or performance, and let's throw in hypertrophy, bodybuilding, and fat loss, because those 2 always show up, and goes back in time and pulls up something, always make sure you go back to the original sources and spend some quality time trying to figure out, what did they mean by this? When you look at 2 eggs in bacon fat being only 40 total calories, things have changed a little bit. So it's weird, but I still love and appreciate all of our forebears, all of our pioneers in my world of strength and health. And when I hear someone going after them, and I'm not going to really rip on this article too much, because it's not fair to the author, but it's important sometimes to sit back and think about what was trying to be said and what was being said positively, and then go for there. Thank you, folks. I'm Dan John, and I'm here to help. Remember, if you have questions, go to podcast@danjohnuniversity.com, and I'll do my best to answer every question. Thank you.